What's going on, everybody? My name is Tim Jedrek. I'm here at the Right Rudder Marketing Podcast. We have a very interesting guest today on the podcast. Today we have Marty. Marty called me just a few weeks ago, maybe a month ago, kind of out of the blue. And I'll let him give an introduction on himself. But yeah, it's definitely not our usual guest. We normally have people that run aviation businesses or consultants. He has an interesting link industry that we'd like to share today, and I'll go ahead and give the floor to Marty. How you doing, Marty?
So far so good, but it's early yet. Lots can happen. So
where are you currently?
All good. So my name is Marty Tascona. I'm in Calgary, Alberta, Canada, and right now I'm in the Bat Cave. So should be usually pretty quiet down here. And the introduction or the connection to aviation is I'm the executor and copyright holder of a very large body of work of art or fine art that my father did. He passed in 2006 at the age of 80. He worked professionally for many years in the aircraft industry or aviation industry as an electroplating technician. An enormous amount of his percentage of his work was, let's just say, inspired by both the materials and the design elements of both aerospace and aviation. And so that led me. So I've been trying to reposition his work. I've created a new genre of art that I'm calling aerospace aesthetic, because again of the design and the materials use that came into play. And so that led me to noodling around and doing some cold calling. But I used to be in sales directly. I'm still in sales, of course. Now I'm trying to sell a concept and build some awareness. But in any event, that led me to Tim. And so that led to this conversation. Other stuff you might want to know about me. I'm not getting let's see. I'm a dad, father of 3, 1 wife, 1 house, 1 cat, and a few other things like that. And I have interests, of course, in fine art. I have interests in software development because I did that for a while, quite a while. And of course, these days, e-commerce and repositioning things into the aviation and aerospace industries. So lots on my plate, and having a heck of a time and quite enjoying it. But so that's a bit of an intro about me. We can get as deep as you'd like after that. So
yeah, so it's like I said, it's kind of unusual. It's something that we didn't really have on the show. December special here. He called me out of the blue, and I didn't really understand what you were talking about. I was like, "Are you a pilot?" And then you kind of, I guess, name dropped your father there. And actually, I had one of my team members on the side. So I was on the phone on the office, actually, and one of my team members was right next to me. And he was like, "Hey, dude, this dude's huge." I was like, "What are you talking about?" And I was like, "Yo, just look up his name." I'm like, "Okay, fine." I looked up his name. There's actually a Wikipedia article and all this stuff about him. And I was pretty impressed. I was like, "Okay, well, why not have him on the show?" So yeah, I think your initial pitch to me was to sell me art, I think maybe. But I was like, "Oh, that's pretty cool." So yeah, Tony Tascona is your father, and he had I guess a big connection with the airline industry. He worked. Maybe we can share that again. He was an
Sure.
aviation mechanic. Is that correct?
Well, we're in the neighborhood. He worked for CAE, Canadian Aviation and Electronics, for a number of years, and then as well with TCA, which became Air Canada. But he worked as an electroplating technician, and so he was that led to working with all kinds of materials, working with acid baths, which ultimately impacted his health. But he worked with those materials, but it led him in the direction of working with lacquer paints. Let me give a time frame for this. We're talking about 1958 into the 60s, and then of course right up until 2006. He worked there in that industry until about 1972, when he got a Canada Council grant that he managed to make last for 2 years, and his art sales just took off. So he was one of the 3% of people in the art or in art that are able to make art, or were able to make a living by uh, producing art and selling it. Great salesman, and so great salesman, nice guy, very high energy, many things like that. But he he did a lot of work in the community. In 1996, was awarded the Order of Canada, which is, I think, our second highest civilian award or thing that you can get. And folks often mistake that that's awarded based on the technical proficiency or greatness of the work. Yeah, that helps, but it has everything to do with community contribution. So he did a number of fundraisers or auctions that would go to different things. So we had a lot of fun with it. But it was him. It was his energy and his persona that led to that happening. But a very good artist, very productive. Um, I'm still missing, in terms of imagery, about 200 pieces of work, I estimate. Maybe it's only 100, but there's a lot out there that I haven't found yet. But every month I get one or two that happen to come in. I don't know. Does that help? Does that give you a bit of a sense of the aviation background? And so, that way back when, of course, you get passes, and I've flown on post DC-3s, but a lot of the turboprop planes from the early 60s. And it would take to get from Winnipeg to Toronto like 4.5 hours. So they weren't exactly fast, but they did get there.
Before we do that, you mentioned a lot about sales. So a lot of things that people do that listen to us, that follow us here on our YouTube channel or on our social media, or just in general follow Right Rudder Marketing. They do that to grow their business, and I think there's a formula for growing your business, and it's there's different aspects of a business, right? So you have your operations. It's like buying aircraft. It's hiring CFIs, which are certified flight instructors, training students. You also have the admin part of it, HR, hiring, finance, things like that. One of the biggest parts that we kind of skim over, especially in the aviation industry, at least in the ab initio programs, is the sales and marketing aspect of it. So I'd like to kind of hear, as a sales guy myself, I've done a decent amount of sales too. I'd like to kind of hear your take on, the sales process. What does that involve? If I was just getting into sales, let's say I'm a CFI and I need more students, what are some tips and tricks you can share with the community about how to really do some sales?
Well, there's a number of things to it. So I'll just start a higher level at the what I call strategic marketing. So what I'm trying to do, well, I was told this by a guy in Silicon Valley back in the 90s. I used to sell email software back when that was a thing. And of course, my kids just laugh at me. What do you mean you sold email software? Don't you just get email? But 30 years ago, it was a different scenario. So this fellow, a guy named by the name of John Katsaros, interesting fellow, but he told me, he says, look, if you can't be first in category, invent a new category, and then be first in the new category. So that's part of what this messaging and positioning piece is all about, in terms of the notion of aerospace aesthetic. Is that if you go back into the 60s, there were a handful of countries that built aircraft. There were a handful of countries that built parts and provided, higher end services for the aviation and the aerospace industries. Going back that far, we'd not gone to the moon yet, so there were a lot of things that were nascent or very early. So, but that's a long time ago. Now, almost every country on the planet, or say 2/3 of them, build aircraft of some kind. They build parts, they export, they import, they do a lot of different things. It's a massive industry. It used to be not very big. So what I'm trying to do is take a large body of his work and reposition it into that space. And he was an innovator. He was a pioneer. He led the way in the use of materials. Now, what's that got to do with sales and marketing? Well, if you're going to drive your position in the market, you need a positioning. You need to know where you want to be and why you want to be there. And if you can't differentiate and you're just another one of a long list, you're not going to go anywhere. So that's part of the sales and marketing process here, is to reposition and then develop the message. And, if depending on whose systems you like to follow, there's, the use of authority amplifiers. In terms of his art, there is such a thing. But meaning there are many authority amplifiers with the awards that he won or gained, and all of the major collections in Canada that he's in, and some of the collections in Europe and in the States that he's in. But you can do different things with that, but you have to be clear as to where are you trying to be. And what I often will say is, it's hard to be in two places at once if you're really no place at all. So, and when you look at the world of art, many artists are very diffuse. So getting back to the sales and marketing of what I'm doing is, I'm not selling the original art. Point now is I'm trying to do a couple of things. And one is I want to raise the value of the art, but in Canada, which is a tiny market, the dead artist market, for the most part, is pretty small. And the market for reproductions or recreations of original works is, it's kind of iffy. So I'm going, well, okay, let's take his work, let's take Tony, the artist, and try to create a global brand. And quite literally, it's very narrow, but it runs very deep. Global brand in the context of aerospace art. And so then getting to the sales and marketing side, how do you do that? And then you need to build awareness, and who's going to buy it? Who would care? And, if you just look at the Pilots Association as an example, in the North American one, there are 56,000 commercial pilots. That's a market all by itself. Now, if you get into all the people that work in aerospace and aviation, now we're getting into many hundreds of thousands. And then, so that itself is a big population. And we come back to need or interest. And, Tony always told me, he says, look, art is the hardest thing in the world to sell. He says, nobody needs it. You need a house, you need a car, you need clothing, you need food. Nobody needs art. They want it or they don't. So it makes for a very different sell overall. People need advertising. They need marketing. Okay, you provide a service, some will buy, and if it's niched enough, targeted enough, then often you can get your message into the minds of the people that need to hear it. The sales and marketing, what I'm trying to do now that I believe is going to work is I'm targeting, quite literally, it's called an association sell, but you sell and market to associations of birds of a feather. We used to call it in the 80s and 90s. But today, it's just communities of interest. We're a community of interest network. And If you might love the industry you're in, whatever subset of aviation and aerospace, um, and yet all you see are wings and hats and pictures of World War II fighters. So I've done a lot of search, and it turns out that there are not many artists in the United States or Canada or Europe that have ever produced work in this space. So I'm trying to add or sell the concept that these communities will be better served if they can integrate things like fine art into the offering. So, um, you've heard of the term STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math. Well, I'm in the A part. I want to create STEAM. So that we,
Yeah. Seems pretty
right?
popular, actually. Like we have, I think in the States, STEM is the most popular one out there. But there's been, I've worked with a few flight schools, and I've also attended a few community events in my local area. We've added the A for aerospace or aviation.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Because especially right now, I think I don't want to say we've moved on from aviation. Aerospace is really part of the next frontier. I know we went to the moon already. I know we sent satellites and probes out, since the 70s and 80s. But now it's really about how we, modernize that to such a point where, humans can travel, be a space-faring nation. I think Elon Musk does a really good job of kind of marketing that piece out
Oh,
there.
way out there. Yeah,
So, I mean, without that guy, I don't think any of us would be talking about, going to Mars right now, or even the AI stuff. So you think about all this AI stuff that's being built. A lot of it is towards, if we were to, let's say, deploy out to another planet or another asteroid or moon, you would use technology in order to get that. So I think, to go back to the STEM aspect of it, I do think that STEM programs have really taken off recently, especially, think about this. I think there's been a shift in the market, especially as AI has been kind of increasing and jobs are getting harder. A lot of times,
hmm
um, before if you worked in the service-based industry, to say, customer service or, um, I don't know, sales, you had a nice cushy job. Software engineering was a big one. So if you worked in software engineering, you had a really good job. A lot of that is kind of the wells have run dry. So there's been actually a pivot now to the trades, which is like, mechanics, HVAC, things like that, fixing cars, fixing planes, piloting, being a pilot as well. There's been a shift to, like, the trades instead of the universities. But, if we were to get in the university level, aerospace engineering is one of the bigger parts of it as well. So I don't know,
yeah.
just kind of rambling on myself too
No,
here
no,
about,
but absolutely. I mean, all those things are factors, and part of this initiative, and part of how I'm also trying to position it, is that it, you may have heard the term Bauhaus or form and function,
a
and
form of
if you
function.
go STEM, it's all form. I'm sorry, my mistake. It's all function. And so one of my quote unquote arguments or pitch points is to say, well, okay, by adding the creative element, you expand your audience. You can attract more people into your industries. Now, I don't know about where you are, but right now in Canada, attracting people into the aviation industry, it's a big challenge. And you talk about trades. There's a lot of people that are very skilled on a keyboard, but try to get them to build something, physical.
Try
It's
wrenching
not
on
so
a
easy.
water cooler or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah,
Have you
so
replaced your thermostat yet? I don't know.
yeah, it's like, but adding so expanding the appeal to the creative classes, not just the people that can do stuff, and god, we need them, you know it's like the things I can build, it's a short list, but you need them, but you by adding the component for creativity and making space for it and making it acceptable in the culture of whatever organization or subsector you're in is essential, because then you can attract or make it will say, give the creatives permission to bring more of their stuff to market or into the design room or the development process. And I think that's extremely important. Now, a lot of it won't work, but a lot of it as well will influence how people go to solve problems. And so when we talk STEM and we eliminate the arts, is I think it's a bad move, but what else would I say? But at the same time, you want everybody that can contribute, and you want people that they might have an art centric view of the world, but at the same time they have skills, they have hand skills, they have design, they can build, and you want them in, not to be excluded where it's engineering centric only. Uh, at least that's my take. So.
Yeah.
Uh,
Kind of wrapping, make it, let's loop back to the original question here. So, we were asking about how do we, do sales and marketing for the aviation industry. And I think you kind of defined it really well here. So one is really know your niche. Two is all about your position. I think, making sure you're having the position. And three is really, your message, and make sure that you have a good message in order to bring that. And then you kind of like a 3.5 if you want to do a second tier, or next tier here too, is really being innovative, right? So you're talking about, if there's a certain way of doing things right now, there might be, in order to you kind of give yourself we call it in right rudder marketing, we call it UVP or USP, a unique sales proposition, a unique value proposition. Being able to create something for your target audience, that's innovative and different, that makes you stand out from everyone else. So like we have schools that, that they don't just do flight training. They also do youth programs, or even recently we had, at least in the States, we had something called Mosaic came out. So a lot of schools are now pivoting towards training sport pilots and stuff like that. It's a whole
mhm.
different, certification level and things like that. So I think really what you're saying earlier is about, being innovative, making sure that you make sure you have a good position. That way, when you send your message out to the community, when you send your message out to the people you're looking for in your target, they're able to reverberate with your message and go on with that.
Yeah, no, that's exactly right. And so, in support of that, or to that end, I've opened another browser window
Yeah,
into the aerospace aesthetic subset. And now I'm not familiar with Riverside and how to bring it in, but I have it. Uh, so is to do
yeah,
a
it's
screen
very similar.
share.
Yeah, it's very similar. It's if you use like Google Meet or Zoom, it's very similar to that.
Okay.
On the very bottom there's a button called Share, and you can kind of share with the. I was yeah, I'm still saying share with the team, share with the audience here. What you got? Do you see the button there? Up there you go. You got it.
Yay. This used
Showing
to
there.
freak me out. Um, these are, there are some videos. One of the questions you had asked was, about a favorite piece, and I don't have one. There's too many favorite pieces, but I did work
Sure.
on the installation of a number of the commissions, and
So a lot of this artwork that your father had done has gone to like different I guess institutions, court buildings, it looks like hospitals, universities, a lot of this stuff. And this is all when you say like how do you say, when you
a
say
commission. Yeah.
aerospace aesthetic, what that means, from what I understand, is you've used aircraft parts to create art. Is that right, or is there another way to define this?
Aircraft materials, or materials that are used extensively in aviation and in aerospace. And so those materials, and thanks for the question, are that he would use were lacquer. He would work with
Hmm.
aluminum, both as a painting surface, but also as a constructive material. And so that was where you're making layers of things out of aluminum, um, and also with epoxy resin. Now today, epoxy resins it's a well-known quantity. In 1964, 65, not so much. Nobody knew anything about it. And so lots of experimentation, lots of cracked resin pieces because there was too much catalyst put in. But he eventually learned how to control it and do things. So
So what are we looking right here? So this is at the, I think if I remember this is at the hospital.
this is
Uh,
the St. Boniface Children's Research Center, St. Boniface Hospital Children's Research Center.
and then we're looking at the yellow thing dangling from the ceiling here. Is that what we're looking at?
Right. So those are the pieces. So they're to the bottom, from the bottom to the top,
Hmm.
was 95 feet. And now I did not help him build these things, but I helped him install it. And at the time, my hair was black and I could get around a little bit. But we had scaffolding um, that we had to move around, and everything went great. Now, each of these is about 8 foot high, or at closer to 7 foot high, each piece. And there were four
My height.
vertically and four sets of four. And there's a cable that's countersunk in the side of all of this, but we had to get them up there. And so again, this is all done with resin
So this is
or
pure
epoxy
resin, or
resin.
this is is other material?
There's other materials. There are inserts in there for the shapes and some of the additional color bits. But the the substrate or the principal medium there is epoxy resin.
Got it.
And but this is an example of him taking aircraft industry material and using it to produce art, uh, uh, sculptural art of its own kind. And so imagine you were in any one of these offices, at least you get something to look at, um, which is part of the idea. Now, the way that building was constructed, as the light moves across the day, as the sun
Sun from
moves through the day and across the artwork, depending on the angle of the sun, it creates different visual effects. And the pieces can be a little darker or brighter, or parts of the pieces brighter and darker. This is a very successful commission, and it was funded by the old Norwood Hotel, which is the place he got fired from in the 50s for having his hair cut too short.
That's
Uh,
crazy. So like he gets fired. So your father was working at the
as
hotel. He gets
as a beer
fired because
waiter,
his hair, and then 50 years later, his art gets featured at the same hotel he got fired from. Yeah.
yeah,
What a story.
the guy that fired him, his son loved Tony's work and let this commission out. It was a good commission, successfully executed, although the scaffolding we had, uh, these guys had got in early, the landscapers, they brought in these eucalyptus trees. And for three of the four pieces, it all went smooth. When we hit number four, we ran into the eucalyptus trees. It took another 5 hours to work around them. And we're supposed to be very careful. We thought we were. Well, it turns out they all died. they, they did not survive the contact with the installation team, but it was a very successful piece. Um, Here's a piece over here. Can you see
Oh yeah,
you
this is
can
your
still
screen.
see this?
This would be,
Okay.
just thinking out loud here. This would be great if you so we have some schools that are also owners of FBO. So FBO stands for fixed base operators. FBO kind of caters to a different market, especially the Charter 135 market. You
Mm-hmm.
like to kind of have pretty things in your area, especially if you have, let's say a jet rolls into your FBO and into your ramp. You want to have a very welcoming lounge. I think this would be really cool to add to your I guess the lounge, the pilot lounge, and then also the guest lounge. Yeah, I don't know, just talking out loud here for our future, or not for our future, for anyone that has an FBO or an airport they're working at, that are looking for some art to put on the wall or around the building. This is probably a cool little thing to do. And this is, I know this is just pictures of it, but based on the video I just saw earlier, it seems to be these are pretty big pieces now. These are like 8 foot plus multiple versions of them, right? Or
That's
multiple, like
cor-
there's it's kind of like it's like repeated, like scaffolded.
that's correct. Uh, you know, the research center thing. It's you can imagine you've got, like I said, it's 95 feet to the top. It's about 18 feet to the first one. I had an interesting experience on that as well, based on a strange, a silly memory. But when I first went up on the scaffolding, I'm not a scaffolder. Uh,
Yeah.
I'm up about 20 feet or so, and all of a sudden, my breathing starts to get heavy. My hands and arms are getting heavy. My legs are getting heavy. I'm having a full-on adrenaline attack. Uh,
Yeah.
so I kind of had to tie myself to a post for about 15 minutes while I regrouped. And once I did, I was fine. But it was like panic attack time. Not good. Um, Back in here, though, another piece. This is another piece where he worked the aluminum itself. I need to clean up the image a bit, but again, he's routed straight into the aluminum and created physical relief. And that's another great thing about this work, is it's not just ink on paper or flat paint on a flat surface. There's a physicality to it. And so this would be another example of working the aluminum itself. Here's another piece that I think is very much, if you think of flying and landing, all of,
So, yeah, I guess.
to me, this is very much, I used to fly a lot in the 90s, not so much anymore, way back when. But again, this is, to me, evocative of the same thing. This is one of his pieces called Fantail. Now, it turns out that a second cousin of mine, or a cousin twice removed, I used to work at Boeing, as did her dad. And a fantail is actually part of an aircraft carrier, which I did not know. And so here's another one. So there's
So
numerous.
this is from a fantail, or was this just representing a fantail?
Well, who knows? Yeah, like Tony was not literal with most of this stuff. It's just he had
named a fantail. Okay, got it.
yeah, but my cousin had pointed out that on an aircraft carrier there is a thing called a fantail, and that's as far as we got. I might get more later. So and then this is another fantail 2. And again, we have a sense of motion. So if you think of all the views or the feelings you get when you're landing, or in this case, perhaps going straight up, and there's no roadmap provided by the artist. It's just there's a visualization of whatever the hell was going on in his mind at the time. And it's a very nice piece. I lost it in the estate thing. Here's another one.
You lost it, but then you got it back. I guess they sent it back to you. I guess.
I'm sorry?
So you lost it in the estate thing, which I'm assuming is like an estate sale.
Well,
but then you were able to get it back because it's on your website right now, or
no,
is it?
Yeah, I have the image, but I actually wanted the painting, and I designated that was one that I would get as part of the distribution of art. And
Okay.
let's just say between the executor and my dad's girlfriend or partner, we'll say,
Sure.
she decided it would get donated to the Winnipeg Art Gallery. So I lost it. It's only in that sense, but I didn't physically have it. I wanted it. Here's another one that I think fits in, and not to minimize. That was not fun. I was pretty annoyed at the time, so I don't like to dwell there. But I have the image. So not all of these are in the physical, in my physical possession. Many of them are not. Many of them are in galleries or other private collection or other public or private collections. So it's a virtual collection. This particular one, flight path. Gee, what could that possibly mean? Or what could possibly have influenced it? Um, and you might see it in there or you might not. And that's the thing about abstract art is, nobody can tell you what it really is. Um, and
Yeah,
again, this is
pretty cool.
there's more work to be had. Um, and again, a lot of things, but I see a considerable amount of movement. I see dynamics that are in there. Uh, and so I ended up saying, well, you know what? There's so much of this work uh, that, I mean, there's a bunch of other work that's more organic, but where he was completely different, innovative, pioneering, again, use of materials and using themes that reflected, from my standpoint, aerospace and aviation process or designs or more. So, um,
Cool.
so
So,
again, we have all these different
how many
pieces.
pieces are there in total? Just out of curiosity.
Well, I have 460 original images. So if he did a print series of 50, for which was common, that would count as one image. So, and I have myself at least 10 pieces that have not been cataloged yet. And every month I come across another one or two. My estimate is there might be 600 pieces of work out there,
My
or in
gosh, so
total.
many.
He was a very high energy guy, very busy, always working. But the work was a labor of love. He loved to paint. He loved to draw. He loved to do the work. Uh, so there's all kinds of self-help groups or various groups to help people who are struggling artists, and that's great. But what I learned from watching him um, is he would just work through it,
Hmm.
and uh, he says it didn't. He says this whole notion of waiting till you're in the mood is complete bullshit. I don't know if I can say that, but
Oh,
B
that's
is
fine. I'm
complete
fine.
BS.
I think it's completely true too. I mean, like, it doesn't matter if it's art or it doesn't matter if it's something else. I mean,
Correct.
if you're trying to work on something, let's say you're working your pilot certificate, you just gotta get through it. You gotta hit the books. You just gotta,
Yeah.
you gotta deal with we call it dealing with the suck. And if you're running a business, I think it's really important that you have to be able to persevere. You have to be able to, you can't just do it when you feel like it. It's really what I've seen, honestly, it's the people that persevere, that are committed, that are able to, keep doing it when they don't want to do it, but they know that they need to do it. Those are the, business owners that are successful. So same thing with, being an artist. I think that, you have to be able to persevere. If he's working on a big 10-foot painting of acrylic, I would think that you probably gotta, it's a pretty big piece. I mean, I'm 6 foot, so,
Yeah.
going 10 feet here. Um, and then I'm assuming it's also wide as well. And then if you're doing multiple
Yeah.
versions or iterations of the whole thing, that's got to be a lot of work involved doing it, right?
Yeah. It's the basically you have to get into the work, and you're going to screw some things up. You're still, if you're going to make an omelet, you got to break a few eggs. Well, okay,
I love that.
if you're gonna go become an artist, well, you're gonna have to go try to get your ideas out there. However, um, one of his better attributes or professional attributes was, for the most part, he knew when a piece was done, and he had learned not to fall in love with the piece and keep tinkering and adding a little bit of this and adding a little bit of that. No, once he was done with it, he'd put it aside and he'd get on with it. What he would tell me is that many artists, they fall in love with the piece and they keep playing with it. So now they're not producing new work for new ideas, and they continue to add stuff, whatever that means, uh, to what was actually a pretty good piece of work. and they'd have been far better off to just let it go and get on with some other thing that they wanted to express. And it doesn't matter what the medium is, but that they can't let it go. So falling in love with your own work is a bad habit. No matter what, it's like it's work, and you can love the craft, and you can love there's a lot to it. I could tell you, well, an off-color joke on another day about the difference
No,
between
we want to
art
hear it,
and.
Gil. You can't tease me like that.
Okay,
Give me the joke.
okay. So what's the difference between art and craft?
And crafts or what? What do you say?
Art and craft.
Craft.
Like if you were basket weaving, that would be a craft. If you were crocheting or quilting, those are crafts.
And then what's art? I mean, I'm gonna answer the joke.
No, but that's the question.
I would say that art is more so the perception of, it's really the appreciation of a certain thing. Then craft is your how you actually go about it. Art can be a craft. As pilots, I think piloting a plane is also a craft. I think building a website is also a craft. You have to be a little bit artistic. I think it's two different things. I think craft is really the actual process, but art is the appreciation of that process. I
Okay.
don't know if it's supposed to be a joke, but I mean, I kind of answered it a little
Yeah.
seriously.
Well, it's an irreverent question, but essentially it goes, if you can piss in it, it's craft. If you can piss on it, it's art.
Just on it. Okay. It's not that off color, man. It's not that bad. It's not off
No,
color
no,
at all.
no. But if it has a
I've heard worse
function,
jokes.
if it has a function, it's a craft. But if it's expression, and this gets back to the freedom of expression arguments in the Supreme Court going back to the 60s and earlier, where there's people would light a flag on fire and piss on it, and then the Supreme Court would say that's freedom of expression. They would say bad taste, and definitely not anything anybody would prefer. But they say, well, it's art. It's a freedom of expression thing. Anyways, it's a dumb joke, but there's always a time and place for a dumb joke. Maybe not this
No
one. I don't
worries.
know.
All
So
right. So we're towards the end of the podcast here. So we got about 7 minutes remaining. Our audience is primarily flight school owners, but there's also a lot of other people. There's also airports, FBOs that listen to this eventually, student pilots. I guess, what's your call to action? What's your message, and what do you want to tell the world as far as our audience goes?
Well, the message would be add fine art to your mix, appeal to the creative classes, and contact me at Tony Tascona art.com. And the reasons you might want to do that is we've got a merchandise store. We've got a service for reproducing works in different mediums, some very low cost, some are more expensive, of much higher quality and durability. And also we could be quite creative. So even within an instructional environment, we can embed our designs or work with you to have certain elements of the art tied into, if you have training manuals, and scribblers or various forms of collateral that you would put together. They could be tied, they could be produced or put into that kind of a medium. There's many different things that can be done. I think it's very, these days it seems it's all about the experience. We can be very creative in different ways to enhance the student experience, or the airport experience, or whatever the case is. We can add something to it, and that builds retention or builds more emotion, more engagement along the way. And if you have a better experience, people are much more inclined to speak kindly of you when they do speak of you. So
Yeah, I love that.
that's my take.
Yeah.
So
No, I think, what I've seen a lot of times, especially in some flight schools, is like, we don't really get creative. I think that there's, one of the reasons why I wanted to have you on as a guest here is, you have a different perspective than what most people, or you have a different take, a different perspective, a different story than what most people see in the aviation industry. And I think, we do need to get creative with our marketing. We need to be creative with the way we train our students. It's the people that innovate and come up with different ideas that they're able to do it. So, and especially, the legacy of your father, Tony, I think he has a great legacy. He has he's got 600 pieces, right? 600 plus pieces of art
Yeah.
that's floating around for sale.
Some are for sale. Yeah.
Not all of them are for sale. So it's exclusive.
That's correct.
That's a marketing trick, by the way.
I can't sell the institutional art.
Okay.
They won't like it.
Yeah. But yeah, his artwork has been featured in different institutions. It's all over Canada. So it's pretty cool. If you're looking for some aesthetic or something that's different, especially if you're operating an FBO or you're trying to make your hangar or your office space look nice, I think give Marty a call. Do you want people calling you, or do you just go on your website? How was the best way to reach you?
Well, eBay. Well, any which way you can. I'm also in LinkedIn.
LinkedIn.
So but.
Okay.
For email, it's marty@tonytascona-art.com. If you want email, happy to receive it. I've been around so long, I get spam from so many corners, but I'm not worried about that. Phone is good, 403-238-3848. Apparently that's a lucky number in China. A lot of eights is a good thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ba is a very ba is 8 for in Chinese.
Oh, okay.
So there's a lot of restaurants actually that have I don't know if I was thinking I was in Vegas actually. Then there's a restaurant like 888, and that was for good luck. And I was like, oh, okay. I didn't know that until my wife told me, because my wife's Chinese. I'm like, what's up with all the 8s everywhere? And she's like, oh, it's good luck in Chinese. I'm like, oh, I did not know that.
Yeah,
that's pretty cool.
But those are ways to get a hold of me. Any which way is good. Obviously I love to talk. But
I like having guests to talk a lot, because if you don't talk, then I got to ask a lot of questions and I got to talk a lot. So it's really helpful when you have a lot to express and share to the world. So
it's a lot of fun. Tim, thank you very much for giving me this opportunity and taking an interest in what we're doing.
Definitely. Love having you on the guest here. If you're on Spotify, YouTube, or Facebook, listen over here. Just talk to the audience right now. This is Tony. This is Marty Tascona, son of Tony Tascona. He has a lot of good art to sell and show to the world. If you are an aviation business and you want to get in contact with us, give us a call. It's 314-804-1200. You can also hit us up on our email machine. It's info@rightruddermarketing.com. And also, lastly, if you are looking for marketing help, just, check out our website, look at what we got, look at our schools. And, I'd love to, love for our team to come out and help you. We work with schools all over the country, from California to Florida to New York and everywhere. We're everywhere in the country. And we're here our mission is really to help pilots, to help you guys train more pilots and get more pilots in the industry. So give us a call, and we love having you guys listen to the show. So until next time, we'll see you guys around. Have a happy holiday season, and we'll see you guys around. See ya.
Very good. Thanks, Tim. Take care.
Yep.
Bye-bye.